Thank you so much. Want to return to the White House and the North Portico, where you see the vice president and her husband welcoming J.D. Vance and his wife, Usha. And Robert Costa, describe this relationship.
It's not necessarily a close relationship, but you can see there it's cordial, handshakes. Vice President Harris has decisions to make, I'm told, by people close to her. Does she want to run for governor of California in 2026? J.D. Vance, just 40 years old, now the vice president-elect of the United States. What a rapid rise from best-selling author of Hillbilly Elegy to the U.S. Senate and now the vice presidency.
Yeah, you described their relationship as cordial, but it was reported that when it was time for them to go to the vice president's residence, she declined. Is that true?
I believe it's not necessarily clear she declined, but there was not a visit by the Vance family to the Naval Observatory at this point. The details of that interaction to be determined.
What role do you think J.D. Vance will play in the Trump administration?
Oh, J.D. Vance is very close to Donald Trump Jr. and the Trump family. He represents someone who has an ideological piston in his political career far more than President-elect Trump. He's someone who has developed an intellectual framework for much of his conservatism, and he will represent a heavyweight presence on policy and on action inside this administration.
And it is interesting, Robert, as you just said there, J.D. Vance, and all the times we interviewed him throughout the campaign, and he was front and center, very much engaging with the press, and he loves talking about policy. He will tell you there's a policy, even if Donald Trump hasn't announced one yet. He is really he wants to be that intellectual, as you said, sort of voice in terms of coming up with policies, it would seem. Just yesterday, he was meeting with the vice president of China. Very unusual that that high-level Chinese official would even be invited or come, but Donald Trump extended a personal invitation to Xi Jinping, and it's the vice president who came. He had a bilateral with J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, who's only spent about 2 years in the Senate, is now going to be part of that diplomatic outreach. He's going to be part of the outreach, I'm told, to Capitol Hill, and it should be interesting to see, because 2 years' time, as you know, and you know this better than any of us, it's relationships, right? And crafting policy and actually getting Congress to act on it. Does he have the experience to do that, having not passed any major legislation in his 2 years' time? So
we're getting our
we'll watch him.